Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to MTG Traders. My name is Taryn, and this is Azorius Wins. So if you guys have been keeping track of some of the Fan Fridays and then some of the streams we've been doing, we keep running up against a favorable wins deck, and I did play a favorable wins deck back on our Fan Friday a couple Fridays ago. But we haven't done like an official deck tech on a favorable wins build, and I put together this white-blue build just to do just that. But of course, before we get into the video, make sure to like the video if you liked it, and subscribe to the channel and hit the bell right beside the subscription button to know when we upload a new video on the channel and when we go live on the stream right here on YouTube. Without further ado, let's get right into it. First up at the 1 mana slot, we have the Siren Storm Tamer. It's a 1 mana 1/1 Siren Pirate Wizard with flying. You can pay 1 and sacrifice it, counter target spell or ability that targets you or a creature you control. So this is a good anti-control spell that's going to come in early and be a 2/2, 3/3, or 4/4 thanks to the favorable wins we have in our deck. It's just fantastic on the curve and a fantastic play on turn 1. Moving on from Storm Tamer though, we have 4 Stormfleet Aerialists. This is a 2 mana 1/2 human pirate with flying with raid, and of course it enters the battlefield with extra +1/+1 counter on it if you attack the creature's turn. So if we have the Siren Storm Tamer out on turn 2, we attack with it, then play out the Stormfleet Aerialist. This is a 2/3 or a possible 3/4, 4/5, and so on thanks to favorable wins in the later mid to late game of the match. But moving on to some of our white sources here, we have 3 Aven Mind Sensor, a 3 mana 2/1 bird wizard with flash and flying, and if an opponent would search a library, that player searches the top 4 cards of that library instead. So this is a fantastic card for us as it does have flash, so it can come in on our opponent's turn, which is very good for us as far as keeping up either a counter card for our opponent or just being able to play out 2 cards per turn depending on how our opponent's playing the game. But also if they have a Field of Ruin or something like that, or an Evolving Wilds, we can Aven Mind Sensor into the battlefield and then make them only search the top 4 of their library, which is actually quite good for us in the tempo advantage here. Because that's what the deck is trying to do, because it is Azorius and blue-white. We're wanting to be a tempo strategy to kind of lock our opponent down turn over turn and then get attacks in until we win. Next up from Aven Mind Sensor though, we have 3 Kanjali's Sunwing. This is a 3 mana 2/3 dinosaur with flying, and creatures your opponent control enter the battlefield tap. So it's not authority to consoles in that it doesn't give us lifelink, or life back rather, but it is a 2/3 that can turn to a 3/4, 4/5, and so on, and that can actually be very good for us against a Glorybringer style situation where it's a 4/5 and they can't kill it with the Exert ability. So Kanjali's Sunwing is super good for us. It's really great at being a lockdown against a haste deck or a vigilance deck when they enter the battlefield. It's just fantastic for us on the curve. Moving up from the Sunwing though, we have 4 Nimble Obstructionist. This is a 3 mana 3/1 bird wizard with flash and flying. It has cycling for 3, and whenever we cycle Nimble Obstructionist, counter target activated or triggered ability you don't control. So this is going to be like a triggered or activated ability, like putting a counter on a Planeswalker, anything like a Torrential Gearhulk into the battlefield ability, that kind of stuff. You can actually just cycle a Nimble Obstructionist, get a new card, and cancel that ability out. So again, we're kind of going for a tempo strategy here. If we have like a Sunwing out on the battlefield, they play out a Torrential Gearhulk, they're trying to counter something, or they're trying to just get it out for a kill spell from the graveyard, we can do a Nimble Obstructionist to cancel that, and Torrential Gearhulk's going to come in and tap. So again, we're all about that tempo, trying to make sure that we can kind of get in turn over turn, and that we can kind of win the tempo match overall. Moving up on the curve though, we have 3 Dreamcaller Siren, a 4 mana 3/3 Siren Pirate with flash and flying. Dreamcaller Siren can only block creatures with flying, and when Dreamcaller Siren enters the battlefield, if you control another pirate, tap up to 2 target non-land permanents. So we have 8 other pirates in the deck besides the Dreamcaller Sirens here. That would bring our total up to about 11. So getting off the tap ability from the Dreamcaller is actually quite easy for us, but it's also a 4 mana 3/3 flash flyer, so it can come in as a 4/4 or 5/5 thanks to the favorable wins in the deck as well. So it's actually quite good again for us, because if they're attacking in and we have our tempo ability up on tempo, we can play our Dreamcaller Siren on turn 4 on their turn, be able to block as a 4/4 or a 5/5 perhaps, or also just kind of tap down some opponent's creatures to make sure we can kind of last till the next turn for our winning swing. And then at the top of our curve, we have 2 Angel of Invention, a 5 mana 2/1 angel with flying, vigilance, and lifelink, and Fabricate 2. Of course, Fabricate 2 is whenever this creature enters the battlefield, put 2 +1/+1 counters on it, or create 2 1/1 servo artifact creatures. And other creatures you control get +1/+1. So Angel of Invention is actually going to be basically a 5th or 6th favorable wins on the battlefield for us, but it's also a great way to kind of go wide and make sure we can kind of block some people if they're kind of coming in for the win. If we're against a deck, say like Ramin Up Red, red or something like that. So it also has Flying Vigilance and Lifelink, and Lifelink is also very important for us in the mid to late game because sometimes we're actually on the back foot with our life because we're trying to attack out as quickly as we can, and Angel of Invention helps us kind of get that life back to last a little bit longer in the match. But that is it for creatures. We have 23 in the deck. Let's move on to spells here. We have 4 Chart a Course. This is a 2-mana sorcery. Draw 2 cards, then discard a card unless you attack with a creature this turn. So Chart a Course is going to be a card we might actually play 2 of in a single turn to draw 4 cards. I've done it in deck testing. It's actually quite good. But Chart a Course is a great card for us. It's great at having our hand full of cards for tempo and just kind of playing out more and more creatures as the match goes on. But if we can't get out the raid ability on this, basically, just having to be able to draw 2 cards and discard a card is fine too. Next up, we have 1 Baral's Expertise. This was going to be River's Rebuke as well, but Baral's Expertise I think is very good in the meta right now. It's a 5-mana sorcery. You turn up to 3 target artifacts and or creatures through their opponent's hand or owner's hand. You may cast a card with converted mana cost 4 or less from your hand without paying this mana cost. Again, Baral's Expertise is a fantastic tempo play for us, being able to bounce some of their creatures, play out a creature of ours for free, and again, continuing to attack out. So fantastic for us, but we did want to include 1 River's Rebuke as well. This would have been a 2 of, but I think Baral's Expertise is just fantastic in the meta right now. River's Rebuke is a 6-mana sorcery. Return all non-land permanents target player controls to their owner's hand. So say they have some cast outs, Ixalan's Binding, things like that. We can River's Rebuke all that back into their hand and have a single turn of being able to attack out or play stuff out that we need to be playing out. Again, it's only 1 of in the deck because Baral's Expertise is a little bit more impactful in the meta at the moment, but River's Rebuke is quite good. Of course, we don't want to get into it in the early or mid game. We want to make sure this is a late game like bomb that's going to end the match for us. And yeah, it's great. Moving on to enchantments, we have 4 favorable wins. You know it's the 4 of in the deck. It's a 2-mana enchantment. Creatures you control with flying get +1/+1, and of course every single creature in our deck is flying, and it's going to get an additional +1/+1 thanks to favorable winds. And of course this is not a legendary enchantment, so it can stack, which is super fun and like can make a 1/1 kind of get out of control really quickly. Next up, we have 3 Ixalan's Binding. It's a 4-mana enchantment. When Ixalan's Binding enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent and opponent controls until Ixalan's Binding leaves the battlefield. Your opponent can't cast spells with the same name as the exiled card. So I think Ixalan's Binding is so much better than Cast Out right now in the current meta. However, there are some Cast Out in the sideboard for us just in case we need that flash reaction time. But Ixalan's Binding on our turn can lock down a Glorybringer, make sure that the Glorybringer doesn't come back, or a Remnant Bread strategy like an On-Crop Crasher, stuff like that. It's just fantastic for us. It hits a non-land permanent, and they can't cast a follow-up spell. So against those Grixis Bolas strategies, blue-black control strategy with Scarab God, Ixalan's Binding is going to do a ton of work for us. But that is all the cards in the actual main board. Let's go over the lands real quick. We have 2 Field of Ruin because the Escanta in the Legion's Landing decks are ridiculous. We want to make sure Field of Ruin gets rid of those and give us a land as well. Then we have 1 Scavenger Grounds because Godfarrow's Gift is like on the fringes right now, but it's still a deck that's actually going to be played quite a bit, and this is for that. Then we have 4 Glacial Fortresses. Again, this is a buddy land coming in. If we control a plains or island, it comes in untapped, and we can tap for a white or blue. Then we have 9 island and 8 plains, and that is the full 60 of the original Game 1 deck. The goal of Game 1 is to make sure we play out our tempo plays over and over again, turn over turn, make sure we hit our land drops as soon as possible, and then just kind of swing out for the win by tapping down our opponent's creatures with cards like Kinjali Sunwing or the Dreamcaller Siren, things like that to make sure we can kind of just get in there for the win. But let's say we're on the back foot against a control strategy or heavy removal strategy, or maybe a more heavy aggro strategy. What can we do? Let's go to the sideboard. First up, we've got Authority of the Consuls, a 1-mana enchantment. Creatures your opponent control enter the battlefield tapped, and whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your opponent's control, you gain 1 life. So this is a card that's going to be great against a round-up red strategy or a token-based strategy to kind of lock them down, make sure you gain some life. So in the mid to late game, when they're giving in or attacking in for you, you can still attack out and not really care about that because you've gained so much life from that. Next up, we have Two Negate. This is against a more heavy control or heavy removal strategy. Just a fantastic card for us. 2-mana instant, counter non-creature spell. Next up, we have 2 Supreme Will. There was a point where I had Unsummon in this slot instead of Supreme Will, but I think the control meta right now is just so powerful that it really needs to have another answer like Supreme Will in the main board for us. Again, this was also an Essence Scatter slot too, but I took those out over the Supreme Will again. I think they're just fantastic cards overall. Again, it's a 3-mana instant. Choose 1, counter target creature spell unless its controller pays 3 colorless, or look at the top 4 cards of your library, put 1 of them into your hand and the rest in the bottom of your library in any order. So it's a fantastic way to either counter a Scarab God play or to make sure we get a card that's in our deck onto the battlefield like another favorable wins, things like that. Next up, we have 3 Cast Out. So this is going to be our flash card that's going to come in and exile things. Cast Out is a 4-mana instant with flash. When Cast Out enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls until Cast Out leaves the battlefield, and of course it has cycling for 1 white mana, just in case we need to cycle it if we need to. But most of the time we're going to hold it in our hand until we cast out a Scarab God or a Chandra or any other planeswalker we don't like. Next up we have 2 Gideon's Intervention, a 4-mana enchantment. As Gideon's Intervention enters the battlefield, choose a card name. Your opponent can't cast spells of the chosen name, and prevent all damage will be dealt to you and permanents you control by the sources of the chosen name. So Gideon's Intervention, if we get this into a control shell against a Scarab God deck or against a Torrential Gearhulk deck, Gideon's Intervention is going to be fantastic because they have like 0 ways to deal with enchantments. But I think overall Gideon's Intervention might be just a slightly bit faster for us because it does lock them down. I think Ixalan's Binding might be just better overall because it does exile the creature to begin with. But Gideon's Intervention, if we get this out first, it can be better because they'll just be dead cards in their hand. Next up, we have 2 Cloud Blazer. This is against a aggro strategy, a 5-mana 2/2 Human Scout with flying, and when it enters the battlefield, we gain 2 life and draw 2 cards. So this is a great tempo play for us and a great way to kind of, again, get in for that damage. And of course, if they get this out without any favorable wins on the battlefield, it's just a 2/2, but with favorable wins, this can be a 3/3, a 4/4, or even a 5/5, a 5-mana that gives us 2 cards and gives us 2 life as well. So it's just a fantastic overall card for us, and again, a great tempo play against an aggro strategy. And the last 2 cards in the actual sideboard is Fumigate, a 5-mana sorcery. Destroy all creatures. You gain 1 life for each creature destroyed this way. Again, there are a lot of token-based strategies in the meta right now, and there are a lot of aggro-based strategies like Round Up Red. It's still kicking around out there, and Fumigate's going to help deal with that very well. But that is the full layout, guys. On MTGO Traders, this is actually coming to a super cheap 44 tickets. On paper, I think it's coming to about 79 or 80 bucks, but it's awesome. Of course, the money cards in the deck are Angel of Invention and Fumigate in the sideboard. Of course, Glacial Fortress is going up a little bit as well, but those are kind of the 3 money cards in the entire deck. You can always deal without Glacial Fortress if you wanted to, but that's kind of up to you. But overall, I love the deck. It's super nice. It curves really nicely, and again, it is a tempo deck, so we want to make sure that we're playing to their maximum potential every single turn and getting out as many creatures as we can until we get in for the win. But that is it, guys. Let me know what you think of the deck. Do you like it? Do you hate it? Let me know in the comments below. Do you have any suggestions for it? For sure, shout out in the comments below again. Like the video if you liked it, and of course, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the bell right beside the subscription button to know when we have a new video on the channel and when we go live on the stream right here on YouTube. But I love you guys, and I will see you on the next video.